Natalie from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, April 7th to Saturday, April 13th. So last week, of course, we bridged the gap between March's life lessons and April's life lessons. If you haven't listened to the April energy forecast as of yet, I'm going to recommend that you do so that you understand the energy that we're about to walk into and, of course, the life lessons that we're supposed to be learning here this month. Of course, the very first day of April not only ushered in the last quarter moon in Capricorn energy, really giving us more serious, more somber look of where it is that some major changes need to take place, processing again what needs to stay, what needs to go, and revising our long-term goals, our long-term plans. That word definitely kicked in hot and heavy because, of course, on the 1st, we also had Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information communication, how it is that we express ourselves. Mercury went retrograde in this Aries energy. Again, I'm going to recommend that you take a listen to that particular astro forecast. A lot of people really feeling the wrath of having Mercury go retrograde in a fire sign. Of course, we haven't had fire sign energies for quite a while, a couple years anyways. And this one is definitely proving to be a little bit fiery, a little bit spicy, a little bit more damaging than some of the Mercury retrogrades in the previous years. A lot of that fire energy is really kind of, again, burning through a lot of the old, really kind of damaging and destroying the old in order for us to accumulate, build something better in the place of the things that, of course, are being removed. Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, just shifted from Pisces energy into Aries energy. So, of course, she is on a brand new cycle. She is in alignment with her heart space, tapping into that warrior energy that Aries energy lends us in order to declare what it is that she is or is not willing to continue to pour into. She has a change of heart. She has a new mood, new attitude, new realization on new wants, needs, and desires, and she's definitely not afraid to go after it. Of course, this whole time we have been in eclipse energy. We are building towards the new moon total solar eclipse taking place in Aries energy on April 8th. This is why we're all kind of all over the place, why there is rapid and accelerating time warps happening, why there's just, it seems, a lot of extra layers of effery taking place out in the world. And again, we are about to do a deep dive in this solar eclipse energy. Now, this week, that's pretty much all we got going on, is this new moon total solar eclipse taking place in Aries energy on the 8th. However, some special mentions. We have a lot of conjunctions coming up. Conjunctions, of course, is when planets are aligned with other planets. They are basically teaming up for a renewal cycle. And right before we actually have the solar eclipse pop off on the 8th, we have the moon going to be aspecting first Neptune and then Venus. And of course, Neptune and Venus, they get along very well because Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. Neptune is where we tap into our intuition, into our dreams, into our imagination, into our creativity. Venus, of course, she brings it to life. She gives birth to it. She is the portal between the heavens and earth. So to have this renewal energy, really kind of closing the door, especially with Neptune first kind of purifying us, cleansing us, healing, transforming us from old soul contracts, from old cycles, and then the moon moves into this Aries energy, meets up with Venus right away. This is definitely going to put us in a different vibration and frequency to not only feel the relief, feel the alleviation, if you will, of some pain and trauma that we've been carrying on our heart space from old relationship dynamics. But then we get to start fresh and we have this tenacity, this fire energy that Aries energy lends us, that Venus is going to be able to tap into a new intensity where her heart space is concerned. She's not messing around. If you want to F around, you will find out. She has a new list of wants, needs, and desires, and she's not afraid to go after it. I think things get very interesting with the eclipse energy because, of course, if you have already taken a listen to the astro forecast that I put out there, you would know that there is a huge stellium going on. And of course, I'm going to take this opportunity to just drop a little bit of a nudge, hint here that the moon guide is available for your listening pleasure. We'll actually be launching tomorrow, Saturday at 11:11 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time. So if you want to jump over and become a Patreon member, of course, you're going to be able to tap into that private content. It is an hour and a half long, this moon guide session. Because it's an eclipse, it's super important. This is literally the beginning of the next stages of building towards New Earth. And so I did do a deep dive in it. And of course, if you're not on Patreon, you'd rather go through my website to reserve your spot, you can do that as well. We'll talk about that in just a second. But there is a lot of energy built up on the 8th. And even outside of the exact potency where the new moon is actually taking place, we have a lot of conjunctions with the moon and the true node, of course, because they're in a stellium, the moon and the sun, because that's what gives us our new moon, the moon and Chiron, because of course Chiron is the star of the show. We have the sun and Chiron popping off. And then, of course, we're going to move into the moon and Mercury popping off as well. That is going to be a huge day, a huge energetic shift. And again, another reason of why I felt it was absolutely necessary to pour my heart and soul into that particular moon guide edition. We're going to cover it all, from everything that's being talked about in social media, kind of debunking some of those theories, kind of understanding where a lot of this hoopla is coming from. And then we're going to dissect the chart, what it means for humanity and what it means for you in your own individual life. The continuation of conjunctions actually continue. On the 10th, we have the moon and Jupiter coming together before Mars and Saturn pop off. That is a conjunction that we're already within orb of, also has a major function in this new moon eclipse energy. And then the moon goes ahead and has a conjunction with Uranus. So that's definitely going to bring in some clarity, a shift in mood and attitude and understanding of a lot of the craziness, a lot of the confusion that we've been sitting in. And then on the 11th, we have Mercury and the Sun coming together for their conjunction again. Again, this time Mercury's retrograde, but nonetheless, there's going to be a major cleaning of the headspace, of the inner dialogue, of the narrative. There's going to be a futuristically forward type of progression with our thoughts, with our ideas, and that's definitely what we've been waiting for. So we're definitely in for an interesting week nonetheless, and of course with this eclipse energy ready to pop off, we have to just be open to expect the unexpected. And I think with Mercury's retrograde overlapping with this particular eclipse energy, it has been quite a shit show for a lot of people. We're going to talk about that in just a second as well. But before I jump into some of my rants and raves, and especially where the Ascension symptoms are going to pop off for us this week, I just want to take a moment and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting, for dropping beautiful emojis in the comment section below. I actually feel bad. Here's a Mercury retrograde glitch for you. If you've been with me for any amount of time, you would know that even if you drop an emoji and that's it, that's all that you do on my page, I usually respond with another emoji. And YouTube would not allow me to reply to hardly anyone over the last couple of days. It comes up as a receiver not receiving responses or replies or something with an error code. So I'm not sure what that's all about. So if you did drop me a beautiful emoji in the comment section and all I did was like it and I didn't respond, I do apologize. Normally I do like to respond. If y'all are taking the time to kind of, send me some love, I definitely want to reciprocate that particular energy. But YouTube was not having it here this week. And all I can think is to blame Mercury's retrograde. I actually had some glitches on my Patreon as well. Hasn't been working so good. Technology usually isn't my friend, and Mercury's retrograde this time around definitely creating some friction where technology is concerned, and car trouble as well, and also silly little accidents, which we'll talk about here in a second. But yes, just wanted to thank you for being here. I wanted to also thank those of you that jumped over to my Patreon, even as a free member, to sample some of the private content over there, especially accessing now March's zodiac forecasts that are available for everyone to take a listen to. And hopefully that will encourage you to take the leap and actually sign up for either my Patreon subscription or jump over to my website and download your April zodiac forecast, where we have to stay ahead of these particular energies. And again, heads up, shameless plug, the moon guide is definitely the biggest thing that we got going on here this week. I put a lot of time and energy into it. I am so grateful for everyone that kind of reserved their spot and took part in the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra energy moon guide. This is a new delivery system, and so far the feedback has been positive, so I want to thank y'all so much for that. And of course, out of the eclipses that we are currently in, this new moon total solar eclipse in Aries is far more potent, far more intense, far more special than the last eclipse energy that we had. And of course, that is why I made it an hour-and-a-half long session. And again, I do recommend that you grab your chart. We're going to do a deep dive in it. So if you're interested in kind of learning how this energy is going to affect you and what it's setting you up for the next 5-year cycle, I would definitely recommend that you either become a Patreon subscriber or, of course, reserve your spot through my website. So that is all that I wanted to kind of address. Let's talk about some of the Ascension symptoms. Let's talk about some of the wackadoodle things that are currently taking place. So I already kind of previously mentioned that like this Mercury retrograde is a little bit more violent, I would say, a little bit more destructive than some of the other retrogrades that we've had, especially being in different signs. We have to understand that Aries energy is ruled over by Mars, and Mars, the god of war, he doesn't mind destroying anything in his path that is kind of preventing him from moving forward. And essentially where Mercury is retrograde, he is kind of applying a focus on where it is that we do need to have a certain level of damage and destruction in our lives, because otherwise we would never, let's say, replace some of the things that are currently falling apart. Now, I have clients that are experiencing car issues. I have clients that are experiencing, let's call it renovation issues. I have clients that are having old financial contracts now coming up for review in ways that they shouldn't be reviewed at this particular junction. And again, technology glitches. And so there is a lot of effery taking place in the cosmos right now. And I want to just be very clear. I know it's hard to not get triggered and activated when some of these things start popping off, but the closer that we get to this eclipse portal, we really do have to keep ourselves in check. The whole point of triggers and activations are to show you where it is that you're losing your shit, where you don't have control over your mental plane and over your emotions. And because there's going to be a lot of agitation, a lot of frustration, a lot of triggers coming at us, especially as we move into this eclipse energy, again, the whole purpose of the Dark Force agenda is to keep us in a low vibration, especially if it's anger or fear, because that prevents us from aligning with the higher timelines that are available to us as we move through this eclipse gateway. So it's super hard to not be triggered, to not be activated. And it's usually the little things that are starting to build up. And most of the time, you know, we can handle these triggers and activations. But when all of these little things just start building up, it only takes one thing to kind of be the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And that's when we lose our shit. Now, there's nothing wrong with being, you know, in a situation where we have to express those particular emotions and get them out of our body, because of course, if we keep them in, it's going to create dis-ease in the energy of the physical form and in our cellular memory. But at the same time, we also have to be aware and cognizant that this is a game. So when you see things that are happening, that are triggering, that are activating, and you can feel yourself kind of getting those intense emotions kind of rising up within you, you almost have to kind of just shake your head and just say, nope, not playing this game right now. You're not ruining my chances of jumping timelines. I got to get the F out of this circumstance, and you are not going to ruin it for me. And if that means that we kind of have to turn a blind eye to certain situations and circumstances until this particular eclipse energy passes, then so be it. Again, reminder, we're also in a Mercury retrograde. So anything that we kind of, explode about or have a fit about, again, Aries energy being the very first sign of the zodiac wheel, it is the, let's call it, childhood tantrum energy of the zodiac wheel. We do have the ability to kind of get a little bit more frustrated, a little bit more agitated than we normally would. We can go from 0 to 60 in less than 60 seconds and then shake it off like nothing ever happened. But I just want to bring this to your attention because the energy is getting more trivial. It is getting more triggersome, more activating, if you will, in not the nicest ways, the closer that we get to this eclipse event. And the whole point is to try and stay in the lightest, happiest, joyful vibration that we could possibly align with. Being authentic, because you can't fake it. You have to be authentic in it. But we definitely want to be in a better mind space. We want to be in a, let's call it, non-agitated state as we move through this eclipse portal. It might be a tricky thing to do, but we definitely have to give it a little bit of effort. So this Mercury retrograde is definitely going to have us kind of lashing out, verbal vomiting, if you will, in certain instances and circumstances. Just be aware that anything that you're kind of releasing as far as, let's call it, aggravated emotion goes, will have to be reconciled once Mercury actually goes direct towards the end of the month. And again, just want to remind you that this is not a great time to start something new. This is not a great time to make commitments. This is not a good time to actually take action and make moves. The urgency is going to be there. The impulse is going to be there. But again, we're not in control. We're not in power right now. It's good to have new ideas, but we don't want to act on those ideas. It's good to have, let's say, a good idea for a business venture, but we don't want to bring the business venture alive right now. This is very unstable energy, and you're going to hear conflicting kind of thoughts and perspectives about whether or not you should be manifesting through eclipse season or not. I personally don't. I like to kind of sit back and kind of see where all the cards are going to fall through eclipse season before I make any kind of initiating commitments on bringing something new to life. But again, that's your own, use your own judgment there. Do what feels comfortable for you. Of course, if you have opportunity knocking on your door, we don't want to not answer it. But at the same time, just realize that the intensity, the way that new opportunities show up while Mercury's in retrograde, while we're in eclipse gateways, there's going to be a lot of hidden details because, again, eclipse, something's hidden from us. And we're going to have to iron those particular details out once we get out of this eclipse energy, once Mercury does go direct. And the situation and the circumstance, the opportunity may not look as appealing or as favorable when we get out of this particular wackadoodle energy. So again, use your judgment on whether or not, you're going to answer the door, of course, when opportunity knocks, but we want to kind of avoid making those particular commitments until after this energy passes. So it's a weird vibe right now because the energy is all over the place. Our moods and our attitudes are all over the place. Our physical energy is up and down. Again, Mars is in Pisces energy. So we'll have one day or even a part of a day where we feel like we could take over the world. And then suddenly the second half of the day, we just need to lay down. We just need to kind of rest and recover. Until Mars kind of moves out of this Pisces energy, which will not be until the end of the month. Again, he moves into his rulership at the end of the month. That's going to be the green light go ahead. Again, I am going to encourage you to take a listen to the April energy forecast if you haven't already, and to download all the guides to kind of assist you in understanding the domino effect of all of these astro events and what it is that we're actually building towards. But until Mars gets out of this Pisces energy, we are going to continue to do this back and forth, this up and down, this tug of war. One day we're having a great day. We think we know what we're kind of pursuing. We have a whole lot of clarity. And then the next day we're confused as F. We're curled up in a ball, just whining it out on the couch, just confused. Confusion is the name of the game through eclipse season and with Mercury being retrograde, because of course, confusion comes when our intellect can't make sense of a lot of the things that are taking place. And the whole point of this particular energy is for us to give our intellect the back seat and allow our heart space, our intuition, our soul self to actually lead the way. And even at that point, we may feel in our heart of hearts that we're onto something, that we're on the cusp, the precipice of a major change, a major transformation. And that hopefulness, that wishfulness, that trust, that feeling may be very validating, but we can't put into words why we feel that. We haven't been gifted with any kind of indicators on how or why we should be feeling that way. And when we allow our intellect to take a good scope, a good look at the land, if you will, we're just confused as all F. So this is why, again, we're kind of going through this realignment, through this gateway, this portal energy, because there is a shift in our egoic selves, which our intellect is very connected to, and this new version of self that mostly has the power, has the leadership of our higher self. And so again, sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, demanding clarity when it's not time for that. And even though we're kind of getting little bits, little hints, little clues of what it is that we could be building towards or new ideas that we could be pursuing, it feels very foggy. It feels very vague. It feels like we may have a little bit of clarity, but then that particular element of clarity leads into a whole other package of confusion. So it is this back and forth energy right now. Again, just try to have some patience with yourself, because again, the clarity is not that clear while Mercury is retrograde, nor in eclipse season as well. We're going to have a couple of more weeks, especially waiting for Taurus season to pop off, because that's what really going to provide us a grounding energy, an anchored energy, if you will. We get to slow down, and around that point, and again, if you've listened to the April energy forecast, you would know that we do a deep dive into that full moon in Scorpio very shortly into that Taurus energy, and that kind of closes the door on all of this wackadoodle craziness of eclipse season. But of course, we have to understand that it's not going to be until the new moon in Taurus energy, early May, that officially closes the, let's call it, energetics from the eclipse energy that we're about to walk into with this new moon solar eclipse in Aries energy. The full moon in Scorpio will close the door on the full moon lunar eclipse in Libran energy that we're just coming out of March 25th. And again, we have a little bit of time to go before we're really going to be returned back to normal energy programming. So I just want to kind of remind you that fire energy is spicy. It's dramatic, it's aggressive, it's agitated, it's inspiring, it's exciting, it's restless. And we're going to be feeling a mixture of all of these things intensify the closer that we get to this new moon eclipse energy popping off. And so again, there's like energy building. We're fire dominant here. Again, I'm going to encourage you to reserve your spot for that moon guide presentation, because we have more fire in the cosmos now than we've had in a very long time. And although it's exciting, and although there is, this edginess to it, it can feel very intense. And especially seeing as Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, just moved into this Aries energy, this is bringing a whole different level of intensity to the heart space, to, let's call it, the urge and impulse to take action and make moves, especially where relationships are concerned. There's going to be a lot of sexual energy kind of rising with this Aries energy, especially because Venus is in this Aries energy. We are busting out with this new form of identity, this new form of self, and with that comes new wants, needs, and desires. The Aries energy in its totality wants us to take action and make moves. It's just that it's not that recommended through eclipse and retrograde energy. Anything that you initiate, anything that you bring to life, anything that you do take action upon, it's going to be messy, and you're going to have to clean that particular topic and theme up towards the end of the month before we're going to be able to actually venture into the new path, the new timeline, the new chapter, which we're going to start seeing take form early May. So yes, the heart space is definitely all riled up and ready to go. Again, there is a lot of passion, a lot of desire, a lot of urge really taking over the physical form. Another good test to see our energy management. But I also just want to mention that if you find that you're having an acceleration of your heartbeat, so rapid heartbeat, or your heart feels like it's beating out of the chest, or dysfunctional heart arrhythmia, or whatever the case may be, first of all, let's just throw out here for legal protection that, of course, if you're concerned, you should see a doctor. But also Ascension symptoms. This is one of the Ascension symptoms for this week, and a lot of that is because we're rearing to go. And because Venus is the heart space, we have a lot of energy building, and blood pressure could go up. We could have increased headaches or migraines because of the pressure building. We could experience jaw clenching, and therefore tension and rigidity, not only in the jaw but stemming down the neck and into our shoulders. This is a physical shift. And, to bring even more attention to this, because we are shifting into a new form, so to speak, you may find that looking at yourself in the mirror, that you're actually having physical changes in your face, in the way that you see yourself, in the way that you're actually looking. There could be marks, moles, there could be a change in eye color, a change in your hair color. There's all kinds of different, I'm going to say, very small details, but big enough to actually notice. And all of this is the major change, is the major transformation that we're going through. There's an energetic layer being kind of pushed into the physical form. Our physical form is the vessel that holds the soul and spirit. The soul and spirit is what's going through the major change, the major transformation. So when that energy kind of overlays the physical form, there are certain things in our physical form that change with the ever-changing energy. And so you may find that you walk past the mirror and you're like, oh, who is that? Oh, I didn't realize that I had gold specks in my eyes. Oh, didn't realize that I had, natural blonde highlights coming out of my hair. Didn't realize my skin was doing so well. Didn't realize that mole is actually on the move. These are just small little indicators that the change, the transformation is taking place. So I know I kind of talked about the car-related incidents, the tech incidents as well, the silly little accidents. And so, Aries energy is a fire energy. Mercury being retrograde always kind of illuminates where it is that we're not paying attention, because again, our head space is all kind of dizzy, kind of disconnected from our physical bodies in a lot of ways. And because of that, the Aries energy, typically speaking, can put us in situations where silly little accidents can happen. What do I mean by that? Well, I will give you an example. Me and my dogs were going out for a little bit of a drive. We had a couple of errands to run, and the wind kind of caught my car door as I was putting one of the dogs in the car, and the corner of the door came back, slid down my bad leg, because I do have a bad leg. Of course, it had to be the bad leg. Slid down that, hit my ankle, ripped the skin off of my ankle, which I happen to have a tattoo of the phoenix on, which I thought was very interesting, very symbolic to me. Definitely got the message loud and clear. But there was no need for that. It was a one-off. Couldn't have planned it better. If I tried to do it myself, probably couldn't plan it better. Now I have like a couple inches anyways, line of a bruise that is cutting through and has removed some of the ink out of my tattoo. So my ankle has been swelled up, very sore. And again, not that I wasn't paying attention. I just didn't know that I should be paying attention to those particular things. But again, that could have happened on any day. Why am I blaming Mercury retrograde? Why am I blaming the eclipse energy? Well, I'm not really blaming it. I'm just connecting the dots. I parked my car in the exact same spot My dogs go in the exact same spot every time. The wind has blown on other days, and I've never had that happen to me. So when these types of things happen, I kind of laugh it off after I, grit my teeth and try to choke the swear words down in pain and in discomfort. Then I kind of laugh about it because I'm like, okay, well, car related, there you go. Silly little accident that really didn't need to happen, that of course is slowing me down, right? That's the big message here, slowing me down. And not that, everybody has a tattoo of a phoenix on their ankle, but I do, and it ripped half of the wing off. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? The phoenix is about empowerment, about change, about transformation. And here we now have a wounded wing on Mr. Phoenix. So I guess I'm not rising up as fast as I would like, or my higher self would like. I guess I'm not changing and transforming as fast as my higher self would like. And now I need to slow down and be a little bit more cautiously aware of what's going on around me, or, ankles are where we store fear. And not that I'm going to, spill the beans yet, but I'm working on some big projects and I'm a little bit nervous and apprehensive of them. And I thought, to me, it was a good indicator of where it is that I'm holding fear in my ankle from making those steps and moving forward. And it just kind of puts things in perspective. So when you speak energy and you kind of, know that everything happens for a reason, good, bad, or otherwise, and that there is a cryptic message to pretty much everything that happens, and you have self-awareness to connect the body parts to, certain accidental injuries and what that's trying to tell you, you can actually paint a very big picture of what's going on in your unconscious realm. And so I thought that was an interesting little thing to share. I know, like I said, I have a whole client list that is just dealing with certain levels of effery that, is just not normal. And for everyone to be dealing with something out of the norm right now is very indicative of, again, not only Mercury's retrograde, but eclipse energy, where we have to expect the unexpected. We are going to have a lot of unexpected tremors, spasms, vibrating pieces of flesh, of muscle, of nerves just popping off in our physical form. I want you to pay attention to where these little spasms and tremors actually take place. I watched a little section of my upper arm just spasm like it had its own heartbeat not too long ago. That lasted a whole day. For those of you that are jumping into the keyboard and going to suggest taking magnesium, that's not a thing. Thank you so much for your recommendation. I love how people automatically want to kind of, provide solutions. But here's the thing. I'm topped up on all of that. Some things you just have to chalk up to the energy moving through your physical form. I know some people still have a hard time kind of buying into the energy moving through the meridian channels of your physical body. But when you dive into the integrated health science and you understand all the bodily systems and how they interact and how they get along, you understand the energy shifts, especially on the days where these spasms, these little tremors start popping off. You can definitely take a look at the Schumann Resonance and recognize that, this has to be the energy moving. And so whether you find them in your legs or in your arm or under your rib cage or in your back, pay attention to the area in which these little spasms, these little tremors, these vibrating little pieces of nerve start asking for your attention, because there's definitely a message hidden in that as well. So we're definitely having a change in eyesight, a change in vision, a change in perspective. And because that, we're likely going to have dry, itchy eyes. Rubbing them as hard as you can so that you see that beautiful kaleidoscope pattern kind of appear in your eyeballs. Now, I'm not recommending you do that because I know it's a very bad thing to do to your eyeballs. However, it feels super good. And I feel like many of us are going to have many moments where we just are kind of indulging in the itchiness of the eyeball and really enjoying those particular patterns that appear when you apply too much pressure to said eyeballs as well. Now, talking about dry, there's a lot of dryness. Again, huge amount of fire energy taking place in the cosmos at this particular point in time. Not only is it drying us up from the water energies that we just moved out of, but it's also putting us in a situation to re-examine what it is that we need to be doing to nourish ourselves.
So if you have dry skin, well, let's take a good look at our skin. Are you doing everything that you could to moisturize? Are you doing everything you can to keep your lips from cracking? Are you doing everything that you can to just keep yourself well hydrated, well nourished? Again, our body is going through another change, another transformation. And under fire energy, you best believe that we're going to have to keep the water to us. We have a thirst. We have a thirst for water. We have a thirst for knowledge. We have a thirst for clarity, for information. And again, you can quench that thirst by, again, making sure that the physical body is hydrated. And although you may not be receiving the kind of clarity that you want, you can also just throw yourself into learning a new topic and theme, and that is going to kind of scratch that particular itch for knowledge as well. I also want to talk about the fact that the congestion that we had in our lungs, that rattling, that wheezing, and in the head space of random like snot just coming out of your nose, that is kind of passing because again, the fire energy is kind of drying up a lot of that fluid, a lot of that liquid. But we will be having random sneezing fits, random coughing fits. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, that happens to me all the time. Okay. I want you to measure the level of intensity. If that happens to you all the time, I want you to measure the intensity that is coming at us this week. The random cough, the random sneeze is not only a purging, not only a release of energy, but it's a realignment activation as well. And especially once we walk through this portal and we kind of, initiate and anchor in this new version of self, we're going to need to get our energy in alignment, and some of the mechanisms in our physical form, such as coughing and sneezing, help us to get the chi, the energy, the prana, the just everything flowing through the meridians. And this is a good clear out energy. It's also a good indicator that, the change, the transformation, it is happening and it is working. So with that thirst, we're also going to have a change in hunger. And I know digestion is always up and down. It's always all over the place. But again, with this fire energy, we're really burning through all of our calories. We're burning through all the things that we got going on within us, and we just want to continue to kind of stuff our face. There is a certain level of hunger that we haven't had in a very long time because the energy is really supporting a lot of action, a lot of change, a lot of transformation. Believe it or not, even energetic changes and transformation require a lot of energy. We should be in a resting state, although it is hard to kind of lay down and be in that resting and recovery state for these particular shifts and changes and transformations to get anchored in. However, it's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy being kind of expelled in our dreamscape. If you haven't noticed, our dreams have taken a wild turn where we're a lot more active in them. There's a lot more going on. We're using a lot more energy in our dreamscape. We're waking up hungry. And even when you finish eating, it's not very long and you're hungry again. So we want to make sure that we are really taking notice to what our body is asking for and giving it whatever it is that we can in healthy moderation. And again, I would not recommend that you be stuffing your face with processed foods and heavy foods that are going to weigh you down. We definitely want to lighten the load where food intake is concerned, and we want to make sure that what we're eating is packed full of nutrients and energy sources. It is a hard time on digestion, so the heavier the food, the more processed the food, the harder your digestive system is going to have to work for that. And again, burning off more energy and therefore keeping that looping pattern of stuffing our faces alive and well. So we have to be a little bit more aware of our energy levels, of our metabolism, and how it is that we're feeding said hunger pains. So I know I talked about the stiffness in the neck and in the shoulders. I want you to pay attention to where it is that rigidity, cracking, tension is coming up in your bone structure. Because this is going to tell us a lot about where the energy blockages are currently kind of building up and where it is that some more time, some energy, some attention is needed to particular areas of our physical form. I will say personally, outside of the injury now on my ankle, a lot of the, let's call it tension, is in my elbow. my right elbow specifically, and again, connecting the dots to this major project, this major undertaking that I'm trying to build towards. That's my projection hand. That's my creative force energy hand. And it's kind of getting kinked up there because I'm basically not, I'm at the same time, I'm probably not moving as fast as my higher self would prefer, but I'm probably moving faster than what this energy would prefer. And so I'm getting some kinks in my arm to kind of pull me away from the computer, pull me away from, writing and doing all of these things, because it is I hate to call it carpal tunnel injury, but that is the best way to explain it. And that particular injury or that particular tension point is building up for a reason. And so, you kind of have to break the pattern, break the habit that is creating this particular tension. And it's just important to kind of pay attention to where these particular pains and ailments and tension points are building up in the physical body. That is definitely going to need a little bit more time, energy, and attention to heal and repair as we move through this change, this transformation of self, and therefore change and transformation to the physical form. So guys, I think that probably summarizes the bulk of the things that I wanted to talk about. We definitely have a major energy shift on our hands. We have to give ourselves and the people around us a little bit more grace and patience than normal. And again, we just have to be open and acting as the observer to see where it is that certain triggers and activations are trying to make us lose our shit and put us in a situation where, again, we fail to align with some of the bigger, better timelines that, of course, our higher selves want us to pursue. So again, I am going to encourage you to sign up for that Moon Guide presentation. Definitely going to help you understand the change transition that we're currently going through. I send you nothing but love. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, as you should as well, that humanity gets their shit together over the next couple of days and that we pull one out of the park. We knock one out of the park, I should say, and that we all level up. We all upgrade. We all kind of stay focused on the goal, on the prize here, and that we surprise ourselves with the timeline, with the vibration, with the frequency that we're actually able to achieve. So I thank you so much for tuning in. I send you nothing but love, and we'll talk to you soon.